You've got to talk about what makes you tick, because you want a guy like Craig Schlentz to be around a long time, and it's important for me to know what his interests are in life, and I know that he needs flexibility too. So if he has to go see his daughter play sports or something, or go see a musical, that's important.
Welcome to How to Money with Cole and Cole.
I'm Cole.
And I'm Cole.
We coach people every day on their money and how to plan for the future.
As financial advisors, we're here to have an honest conversation on investing, retirement, and everything in between.
At Full Swing Financial Planning, we're here to empower you to take control of your plan, your way, for your financial future.
So let's talk money.
And sports.
Welcome back to How to Money with Cole and Cole. I am your host, Bailey Ashbrook. Sitting here with both Coles today and a special guest, Availa Bank's own Fort Dodge Market President, Dave Flattery. Thanks for joining us.
Thanks for having me. What a surprise. What a nice setup you've got here.
Oh, you're so kind. And Dave, I don't do this a lot, but I have to start off with some apologies on the podcast because I talked too much crap before the brackets were over, and I did not beat the boys.
Yeah, they just beat me down on the last podcast, made fun of me. Trying to do everything they can. And look who came out on top.
Your first two rounds were pretty despicable, but
yeah.
I was not much better. But Cole Jaski, of the four of us, won the men's and women's challenge. Got 7th overall in both the groups. So congratulations.
Of the podcast, right?
Yes.
I did not win. I was
overall, you did not win.
7th. I was 7th in both. 7th on the boys' side overall, 7th on the girls' side. And we can't forget Caleb. He's Michael's here too, but he's we gotta always give him a shout out.
He's at the bottom.
Yep.
Sorry, Caleb. Can't defend yourself. But what a good tournament overall. And Iowa State and Houston let me down on the men's side because, again, I had 15 of the 16. I thought I was rolling against you guys at that point. But
I'm still impressed with 15 out of 16, Sweet 16. I don't think I've ever got that many teams in any pool I've ever filled out in.
Well, thank you.
That's pretty good. But the UConn Huskies.
Solid.
Wow. Man, are they good. And they're already the favorites for next year with Duke. Duke has this guy coming in, Cooper Flagg, who's a number one recruit, but UConn's already projected with Duke to run it all again next year.
There's rumblings, though, the coach that Kentucky's going to throw about everything at to get UConn's coach. I don't even know his name, what his name is. But
I already saw on ESPN this morning that he's staying.
He is staying? Did he make it? Yeah.
I mean, who knows? Yeah. It's the day after the title game, so what's going to happen? But he did say that he was staying. And
then also the women's.
Oh,
Hawks
so close
hurt.
Again.
South Carolina's so good, though. So good. I'm not.
They are. And Dave, I'm sorry, we're going to have to talk about the Hawkeyes for a little bit.
Yeah, he's an Iowa State alum.
Guy. Yep.
Dave played baseball at Iowa State, but we are going to talk about the Hawkeyes because they did have a great run again. Mm-hmm. Fell short just a little bit there in the championship game, but gave South Carolina a good game. That
first quarter, I was like, wow, she is possessed and we are going to win. And then South Carolina's bench had 36 points. And in defense of Iowa, they had no transfer players. They had no 5-star freshmen. I mean, South Carolina brought a lot of power in this year. So, but anyways, great tournament. Good job, guys. Cole Jaski, congratulations on beating me and Cole.
And what about our winners?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, talk about our winners of the bracket
Cole P,
challenge.
you can do that.
So our men's bracket challenge, the winner was Bad Bacon Bits.
Great name.
Who's a friend of Caleb's named Joel. So he won the How to Money men's tournament challenge with 1,430 out of 1,920 points. And then on the women's side, we had a tie between Luke Ashbrook and FC Fantasy Football Picks 2, and we're not sure who that is. So,
but Luke doesn't get a gift because that's my husband.
Yeah, so Luke is disqualified from getting any of the swag that we're going to send out. So whoever's entry was FC Fantasy Football Picks 2, you have won the women's tournament challenge, and you can email the show at contact us at fullswingfp.com or email you can go on our website and send an email that way too. But get a hold of us and we can send you your swag. We just need your name and address and we can send that out. But congratulations to our winners. It was not us, but we had a good tournament, good turnout for those, and we'll be doing it again next year.
Yeah, that was awesome. I'm very sad basketball's over. I know you guys are a little giddy because now it's your sport. The Masters.
What's your favorite thing about Masters Week?
I would say that is just looking at the course, watching the challenging holes. It's just the experience. And I've never, you ever been to?
I was just going to ask you that. I haven't been there.
That's bucket list.
Yep.
I played with a bunch of buddies of mine several years ago over in Galena. You ever played at Eagle Ridge?
I haven't.
It's a very hilly, very challenging course, and of course it challenged me. And the guys I was with, two of them had been to Augusta, and I said, "How does this course lay out? You know, it's all these hills." And they said, "Oh, Augusta is much more hillier than this." But you don't get that perspective on TV at all. You think every fairway is flat. It's not, and you don't get that perspective. But that's why I'd love to go there. And the manicure, I mean, it's so well groomed. The flowers, the grass, the greens, challenging but beautiful. I just would love to go there.
It's just the coverage is on all week. You know, it's kind of like the spring for us in Iowa, right?
Yeah.
You know, the Masters week after Masters week, like golf season really kind of starts. I feel like around here, so it's fun for us. And then to piggyback on the hills and stuff of the slope of the course, I was watching something last night, and they were asking pro golfers what they think a 10 handicap would shoot in tournament conditions, and they said like 99% of them, there's not a chance they could even break 100.
Wow.
Yeah, like a 10 handicap, which a decent golfer can shoot 80 something, and I'm guessing a lot of scratch handicap golfers couldn't, with the slope and stuff there. But yeah, you don't see that on TV.
No.
You guys are so giddy because this also means your guys' golf season's about to break out in Fort Dodge at the country club.
I've heard that's the biggest thing is you don't realize how hilly it is when you see it on TV. But we were talking about who the favorites are. Mm-hmm. Scotty Scheffler is number one, defending champion. John Rahm, I think, is third. Rory's two. I just looked up Tiger Woods. He is playing. He is plus 15,000 to win the Masters.
Supposedly he shot 31 in a practice round early this week. Good. Yeah, that's the rumblings on the the Twitterverse or the Xverse or whatever it's called these days.
I think he still has game. It's endurance for him, and that's what happens. He's 48 now.
Yeah, talking about slope, and you can't move one of your, basically one of your legs is like all mechanical, or stiff. So
yeah, it's endurance. Like I think he could have a good first round, second round, maybe make the cut, but I highly doubt he can keep it going all week.
The fanboy in me wants.
So who do you guys got? Who are you picking? Because I'm not picking anyone because I don't know.
Hideki, I already said Hideki Matsuyama.
That's your taking.
Yep.
Okay. And I try not to ever take the favorites, but man, Scotty Scheffler's been on fire lately. And who did you said somebody said if he putts the way he normally does, he'll win by 8 shots.
Yeah, one of the golf commentators said that last night. Said he's just above and beyond everyone else right now.
Right now, Scotty, he's not having a run like Tiger did. No one ever will, but he's having one of those runs that these golfers get in, and I think he will win.
Who do you got, Dave?
Well, I'm always I like Jordan Spieth. I think he's 16th in line of favorites, but you never know. He's a wild card, and so I pull for Jordan Spieth. I think the gentleman that just won the last tournament, Bahidi or whatever his name is.
Yeah.
Is he in it? Is he in the? I assume he's.
Yeah,
yes,
he got in the field. Yeah.
He could. He's hot right now. He could be the wild card himself.
Those are always cool stories when someone wins the week before, and then gets into the didn't get in, they get in all these tournaments. So and all of a sudden you're at Augusta. It's like,
yeah. So, and Spieth's won twice at Augusta too.
Yeah, so he
obviously
knows
that. And then I think going against the defending champion John Rahm's hard to do too. But if I had to pick one, it'd be Scheffler.
I would guess if I was smart enough,
we'll probably all be wrong. Right?
Probably,
that's kind of the consensus on the show. We make picks and we're wrong every time.
We're not as smart as we're not sports analysts. Darn it,
we're wannabes.
Yeah, that's why we talk about sports because that's our wannabe. But Dave, let's get into you about your journey. So you're the market president at Fort Dodge Availa Bank, locations all over Iowa. Maybe just tell us about your journey, how you got into the banking industry, and what initially drew you into the field, and what your role is here.
Okay, I graduated from Iowa State in 1982. And really didn't know what I wanted to do. My major was in ag business. My wife was a CPA, and I followed her to Omaha. She worked for Ernst & Winnie there. Got on with a company called International Harvester Credit Corporation. We financed floor plans. We did some retail financing of tractors and semi-tractors and so forth. ended up in Dyersville, Iowa for 2.5 years. International Harvester Credit Corporation merged with Tentacle Corporation. They were going to relocate me. I thought, well, if I'm going to relocate, I'm going to go to where I wanted to go.
Right.
And so I called a friend of mine, John Bruner, and John was was the marketing director at United Central Bank back in the early 80s. And I asked, do you have any openings? He said, yeah, we're looking for a credit analyst. And so I interviewed for it, had no idea what that was.
That's how it
I always
goes.
wanted to get into banking, so I became their credit analyst. Before computers, everything was manual charts and stuff, and you wore out a lot of erasers and so forth. Then got into ag lending, commercial lending at United Central Bank. Then I was approached by First American back in 1995 to be their senior lender over there. And I worked there for 5 years, had a really good experience there. And then I got approached by some investors out of Carroll to start a new bank here in Fort Dodge. At first, I'm pretty conservative, wasn't a risk taker, and thought, man, I got a young family, I got 5 kids. Do I want to take this long shot? And I kind of was hesitant, and they got back to me and said, if you're not going to do it, we're going to do it anyway. So that made me feel like, well, if there's going to be competition, I wanted to be the leader, wanted to do it. So we started it. I remember I had one computer in my basement trying to prepare cash flows, who to hire, and so forth. And it was during the 2000 elections. Now, I don't know if you guys were even born then, but that was the Bush.
We weren't worried about or Bailey and I probably weren't worried about the election.
No, we were hanging
Cole,
out.
Cole
I was in college.
That was you remember the Bush Gore and the hanging, and I was just hanging, watching that, trying to do. My daughter was in the basement. We had a pool. She'd throw pool balls at me because I wasn't giving her enough attention, and so that's how I started. And worked out a trailer. We built the bank, and we had no assets at all except for a computer. And now we're about $100 million in assets, about $85 million in loans. Our deposits are about 100 and some odd thousand too. So we're real pleased with the progress we've made. We were profitable after the first 16 months, and so
awesome.
Our goal was to be profitable as soon as possible. So it's been very successful. Good for me professionally. It gives me the flexibility because my kids were involved in college sports. I was able to, in high school sports, I was able to get away and do that. So it was all about being flexible with family and profession. So it was really good for me.
We talk a lot about this, about, what traits maybe. Obviously, you have some successful traits. You were an athlete, played college baseball. What things do you think that, you learned or traits that you acquired, from athletics or your upbringing that helped you with that success, or with leading? Now you lead the team here in Fort Dodge.
Yeah, I would say I was a pitcher and a catcher. They lead the team. And baseball is a unique sport because you've got so many moving parts and you've got to bring that all together. Pitchers are emotional people. So I deal with a lot of emotion at work. So I know how to deal with that. But I played other sports too. And we talked about that offline here. And, it puts you in that situation. Baseball is like the game of life. You're dealing with a lot of ups and downs. There's a lot of disappointments in the game. You strike out or you give up a home run or whatever it might be. So you got to deal with that. Same thing in your working profession. You've got a lot of strikeouts and you've got a lot of successes as well. And so you got to deal with those emotions. And then you got to deal with people. I always say, if I didn't have employees, if I didn't have customers, I have a pretty good job. So you got to deal with that.
Right.
So anyway, you're always got an employee issue, you got a customer issue you got to deal with all the time. So, and then my faith background too. That helps you. You ask the Holy Spirit to guide you through that. My mother was very strong in her faith, and she taught us the faith. And so you ask for the Lord to help you in times of need. And then you glorify God in times of successes. So that's always been my guide as well. Mm-hmm.
I
That's
love
awesome.
that.
Dave, so obviously there's been a lot of changes recently with banking, interest rates, finances, a lot of that. Tell us a little bit about maybe over the last couple of years or since COVID, what have been the changes that you guys have had to endure and have to try to make sure that you do things right?
Well, if you look at banks' balance sheets prior to COVID, and you look at the yield curve prior to COVID, it was pretty flat to somewhat steep. Today we've got an inverted yield curve, and you probably talk about that all the time here.
We do, yeah.
So the balance sheets were easy to manage back then. If you were a depositor coming into our bank before COVID, the range of interest rates that we'd have would be anywhere from 0.25% to, on a short term, if you're looking at 36 months, you might be at 1%. So you're looking at rates that were pretty easy to manage. Well, since COVID, look at what the yield curve has done. We've got much higher short-term rates and much lower long-term rates. So our yield curve is inverted. And so that has been very challenging in the banking industry. The banking industry is challenged with margins and liquidity. And if, to make it simple, if we were to look, you buy low and you sell high. So you invest in, we gather deposits and you hope that you can price them lower. And then you reinvest those deposits in loans. So you let's say that your cost of funds are at 1% and your loans are at 5%. So you deal with a 4% margin. And that margin goes to pay for your employees, your utilities, your insurance, property taxes, and then build capital for future growth and so forth. Well, that's easy to say. We're not in a static environment. We have competition. You guys are competition. So our cost of funds have been challenged. And the biggest challenge is what's happened since COVID is there's been an onslaught of cash that has been flooded into the market. It's all our government spending that we've through both administrations. So you get all this cash that is flooded onto the market and caused inflation. So the Fed is dealing with that right now. They're kind of so what they do is they increase the discount rate, and what that does, they try to slow inflation down, but they don't want to cause a recession. So we're challenged with that. So the problem with it, and I go back to this, is our rates have went up so fast in such a short term that our margins have just been really challenged. And at that same time, if you're taking that same depositor, he's going to pull his cash out of the bank, and he wants to invest at a higher yield someplace else. And so you're challenged with liquidity because people are pulling deposits, and then you're dealing with that cost of funds going up much faster. It's repricing much faster than you're earning assets, so your margins are narrowing. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, kind of complicated, but that's what we're dealing with, margins and liquidity right now in banking.
I feel like you summed up like 3 of our podcasts in like that 2 minutes right there.
No, did you understand?
I totally understand it. Yeah, and that inverted yield curve, I've always been taught through finance that is a bad. I mean, it's a bad thing for historically for everything. How the stock market has increased during this inverted yield curve, I still can't understand that, but it has. And some things are just not ever explained, but that has been a challenge for credit unions, for banks, for all those institutions over the last 24 months.
I think our industry has been, the broker-dealer industry has been a benefactor of a lot of those dollars coming from banks to, our money market funds, or our different types of products.
Because before there was no competition.
Right.
Yep.
We didn't compete with you guys because everything was. It was
you
low.
weren't getting interest rates anywhere unless your gains were in the if you want to take more risk to get more return, you were going in the stock market or a different type of investment vehicle versus a CD or money market or something sitting in cash.
I had a hard time talking to investors and not allowing them, because they can do whatever they want to with their money, but putting it into something that's earning 1%. It's just like, well, even if we take a little bit of risk, we probably can get better than that. So why don't we go the other route? Now it's like, okay, well, you can get 5% risk free. It's like, well,
there's more competition, right?
There's some options out there that we can do that before we couldn't.
Right. I'm getting closer to retirement, and
do you have a financial advisor?
He's got a son. Got a son in the business.
I do have a son.
I know. I'm teasing.
My wife has probably been the best financial advisor. She's really conservative, and she started much longer before I even would have considered it. I'm a sports guy. I'm a sales guy. I'm not into that stuff at all. And
she sounds smart.
She is smart, and So she started the educational savings plans way back before
Good for
anybody
her.
knew about that. She started into investing into a variety of stuff then, and I'm just kind of watching her. Now that I'm approaching retirement, we're trying to take full benefit of my 401k plan, other stuff. We've got farmland, stuff like that we try to manage. And man, I'm so glad that she did. I applaud her for what she did before I even had a clue, so many years ago. And now that my son's in it too, I can see that, that what he talks about a lot, and it's encouraging. And I think, we'll be able to retire here fairly soon and hopefully very comfortable.
So what you're telling our listeners is to start saving sooner rather than later.
Oh, no question about it. No question about it. If you do those spreads starting like at your first professional career, even if it's a 5% return, that can bring I'm preaching to the choir here, but that brings so much financial benefit to you in the long term.
We talk about that a lot is just start. Sooner you start, the sooner you can end, your investment, because even if you start with $50 a month or $100 a month or whatever it is, that money that you're investing at 20 or 21 is going to be so much bigger than if you wait until 30 and then start investing.
And looking back, I think you need life insurance to protect those investments you have. But I wouldn't get too hung up on life insurance. I think it's more to invest your cash dollars and see the returns.
Make them work.
Make them work. Yes.
Yeah, we do a lot of term life insurance for younger people because you've got that big drastic thing. If that were to happen, something like to Cole or to me or something like that, we have families, wives, jobs. You got to take care of that, but you got to have the high death benefit. But I would agree with you that the whole life, universal life, that has a place. But it's usually maybe later on in life or for a certain outcome that you're looking for.
Yeah. I read a lot of articles now about retirement and so forth. And one interesting article talks about, what the most popular vehicle for people in retirement is?
To invest?
No, to drive.
Toyota.
Oh, vehicle.
Toyota.
I knew that.
Toyota. What vehicle?
It's the most reliable brand.
And it holds its value.
Yeah. I got a Toyota.
My dad
I know.
has 2 Toyotas.
I tell Luke I'm driving this thing till the wheels come off.
Yeah. Except my dad calls it a Toyota. But
Your dad always rolling around with a little blue Toyota. I have a question, Dave. I'm going to pivot a little bit because I can't get out of my brain you in the basement starting this business. Risk, high reward. Like you said, my kid throwing pool balls at me because I feel like we're kind of in that stage. We have a young business. We have kids. Like, talk about, and I love talking to former athletes that are now entrepreneurs, took the risk. Talk about leading people. And I know you do a lot for the community. We'll get to that. But talk about leading your employees and how you've grown this way, and maybe give someone a tip starting a business. How do you lead people to be successful, a team to be successful? Don't
ignore them. You got to engage in them. You got to know what makes them tick. And it might mean just every day you come up to, hey, Cole, how you doing today? What's how the kids doing? That type of thing. And then you've got to have you have to update them every day, or not so much every day, but periodically. Craig Schlenz, who's a great guy I work with, we talk all the time about faith, family, and profession. There's more to life than just your profession. You've got to talk about what makes you tick, because you want a guy like Craig Schlenz to be around a long time, and it's important for me to know what his interests are in life, and I know that he needs flexibility too. So if he has to go see his daughter play sports or something, or go see a musical, that's important. So I think it's leadership, but you got to do it so you're fair to everybody. That's a challenge you have. Oh, how can you let this employee do that? But you got to weigh it out. What's really important. So strong leadership, lead by example, be visionary. You have to be visionary. You have to project out what your vision is for this bank and how can we grow, and then motivate them. And we at our bank, we pay out bonuses, and that's very important for that person that might be the teller all the way to somebody that, like myself, the more executive level. So we talk about the financials. We do periodically funny. Hey, this is how well we did. Everybody, I spell out, this is how we did this last quarter, and what why we did so well or where we need for improvement. So everybody's kind of engaged, so we become a team. So I think that's really important.
Do you guys host like monthly meetings as a team, or how do you keep that transparency with the vision? I'm just curious with the goals and numbers.
Every Monday we have a 5-minute meeting, and we talk about what's going on this week, where we're going to be, and then every quarter in that same meeting, I roll out the financials and review where we've been that quarter, how much growth or shrinkage or where we need to improve. So
we're cherry picking ideas.
Yeah, that's what I was doing.
But we're working on this as a team too, of trying to be transparent, figure out growth, vision, culture constantly.
But I appreciate you saying that, because I feel like when people feel understood at work, like what motivates them and what really does make them tick. Like I'm very different than someone else at the office. Like the more you tell me I can't do something, the more I want to do it. Where someone else, you know what I mean? Like and like. We are big on the family time too, like be here with your family present, and then so you can come to work
and make it fun.
Yeah, you
gotta make work fun. I mean, work can be a grind. 20 below outside in January, and you just got done with Christmas and seeing all your family, and you gotta go to work.
Yeah, especially when you have 5. If you are from Fort Dodge and you know the Flatteries, they all have 5+ kids. There will be someone in the Major League Baseball of his family in some time.
I'm sure.
Bobby Johns.
Yeah.
This podcast is produced by Spin Market and Digital.
Located in Fort Dodge, Iowa, Spin Market's highly skilled team can help you increase your market by updating your website, improving SEO, designing advertisements, and producing podcasts that will grab the attention of your market.
Contact Spin Market today for all your digital marketing needs at digitalagent@spinmarketwith2ks.com or call us at 515-302-8026. And to learn more, visit our website at www.spinmarketwith2ks.com.
That's digitalagent@spinmarket.com or 515-302-8026 or visit our website www.spinmarketwith2ks.com.
Let's do a little dollars and cents.
Dollar bills, y'all.
You guys are pretty good at that.
That's kind of our thing, Dave. The dollar bill.
You guys have gotten great at that. So
wait, our dollars and cents guy is cool though, because he's our numbers guy.
I'm always got some random stat or numbers, but
resident dork.
Got some more numbers for the viewers. So and we're kind of like the big Caitlin Clark fan club. We got her in the corner there. Even I'm not really even a Hawkeye fan. I don't claim to be a Hawkeye fan or really a Cyclone fan for that fact. But 18.7 million viewers, peaked out at 24 million viewers for the national championship game for the women's. 4 consecutive, last year the viewership was 9.9 million, so it doubled. And then they broke it in the Elite 8. They broke it again in the Final Four. And then they broke it in the championship. Up 285% viewership from 2 years ago. Championship. The
Caitlin Clark effect.
100%.
Clarkonomics.
Pretty amazing. So
what's pretty amazing is the ability of all those girls to play at the level they continue to play at with that much pressure. Like I get more impressed by that over and over. Like Clark to play consistent, even Gabby Marshall. Like I'm like, could you imagine stepping out and knowing you're breaking these records?
What's the team she's gonna probably go to in
Indiana Fever.
So I was getting my haircut this morning. I don't know if there's any truth to this or not, but I was, some barber talk. He was saying that they already moved their first game to, I don't know if they must not play in the same arena that the Pacers play in or something different. They already moved because they had sold out. They're already pre-sold and they're going to sell 6,000 more tickets for first game.
So the Phoenix Mercury, they're not very good, but they have Diana Taurasi. She was a little sharp on her show about Clark the other day, but she was just talking to talk.
It's gonna be interesting to see if she can bring some of that economic, because I know women's basketball WNBA has struggled. Yeah. See if any of that can translate up.
We want it to.
For sure, you 100%. And I'm sure. I think it's pretty heavily subsidized by the NBA. I'm sure the NBA would love to see it be very successful.
Well, and Phoenix Mercury is literally advertising the Indiana Fever game with Clark's 20. Yeah. Like, it's Diana, and then there's a 22. And I'm like, wow, like, that's shots fired. But
pretty cool.
Well, they picked the perfect time to expand. So next year, not this coming, the draft is like a month from now, and then they start June 1st, I think, is when the WNBA starts. But the following year, they're expanding, I believe, 4 teams. And
cool.
Obviously, they picked a good time to expand with with Caitlin Clark coming in and
a lot of great a lot of great women's college basketball players.
Paige Becker. I mean, you've got some really good players in women's college basketball right now. Audie Crooks. I mean, you've got some really good players. I think
it's going to stay hotter than people think.
Trending up, both the Cyclones teams should be pretty solid next year.
Yeah, we're looking forward to it. I will say I was not one of the 24 million that watched the final game.
Dave, you're a baseball guy.
No, I'm not a Hawk lover. I'm a Cyclone lover. So
you got to cheer for.
I went out for a long walk. So I couldn't even tell you anything about the game.
So you're excited about Audie Crooks, though? Then
what's that?
You're excited about Audie Crooks?
I'm excited about Audie Crooks. I played against her dad, Jimmy.
Yeah,
Jimmy's a nice guy. You remember Jimmy?
Oh yeah,
yeah, he's a good guy.
She had a really cute, not cute, that was the wrong word, but a really sentimental moment after her post game win about grounding herself, thinking about her dad. So that was cool.
Yeah.
But speaking of, you're a baseball guy. Are you a lefty or a righty?
I'm a right-hander.
Oh, pitcher, right-hander. Okay. But you've done a ton for Fort Dodge community involvement. You're on the council board. You kind of led the organization to the Harlan Sports Complex Development Group, which raised funds for all of that. Maybe talk about that and some things you've done in the community.
Well, there was actually two parts to the Harlan Rogers project. We started one about 20 years ago. At that time, my kids were at that level, which we didn't have really good facilities. I saw the need for improvements. We had porta potties. We didn't have direct sewer to that facility. We had drainage issues. We had light issues. We had a lot of problems, and we had the girls' state tournament. I didn't want to lose the girls' state tournament, so worked closely with Lori Brandenhorst at that time. We raised about $2 million privately. We had about $2 million in kind, and we raised about $2 million through the state, and we were able to transform at least Diamonds 1 and Diamonds 2, a lot of unsexy stuff like the sewer water and irrigation and that kind of stuff that was very important to maintaining that. And then recently, I got a call about 3 years ago from Dan Kenny, who was the president at Iowa Central, and he asked what interest the city might have in they moving their baseball program to Harlan Rogers. And of course I was all ears because Diamond 3 was the one field where the baseball players play, especially St. Ed's, that was neglected. And so he wanted to put artificial surface in there. The field that they played on at Iowa Central is beautiful, but it was eroding away, and turf companies would not invest. They advised not to put field turf in there. So we started working on that project, and Iowa Central coaches were not all that happy about it because they could recruit there. They didn't know how to recruit to a field that's 7 miles away. And so I said, well, let's design it that it's really cool. And so we designed it with a vision of looking like Fenway Park. And so we built a 32-foot monster in left field. And so again,
it's awesome.
I would have preferred Wrigley Field. I'm a Cubs fan.
Well, actually,
but it is pretty sweet.
It's really, really cool.
So anyway, we designed it, and they were still kind of like, okay, but we came up with the vision, and all of a sudden we had this vision, and I started going out and calling on some mainly St. Ed's people because that's who played there, and people were saying, where you got me? Like Mike Johnson, where you got me? And Denny Crimmins, where do you got
Love
me?
Denny.
And so we were able to raise the majority of our funds within the first month, and it's like we don't even have a design. Jensen Builders were great. They engineered that monster. Dale got involved personally, and I can say they were really, really good. They're the ones that got us over the hump as far as the design and the engineering, because there's a lot of wind bearing on that like the wind's up to 40 miles per hour. You gotta have an engineering design that can withstand that, and they were able to do that. So, it was a good project, and you go out there, and it's just, you've been out there.
Yes,
I have. It's really cool.
It's amazing.
Our little boys got to play on it last year.
It's fully padded now. It's with the grandstands. The only problem is it doesn't hold enough people. Lori was telling me that the Northwoods League, you ever heard of the Northwoods League out of Minnesota? It's probably the number 2 summer collegiate team or league in the country. They were here. They wanted to do a summer collegiate team for women, so they were here to visit. They saw that and they said, "What's this? We want to look at this too, but we don't have enough seating capacity."
That's a bummer.
I know what you're talking about. Like the seating is kind of limited on that.
We've only got about 300, which it more facilitates for more than enough for Iowa Central and St. Ed's. But if we're going to bring in like Division III World Series, which is a potential, or the Northwoods League, we got to get our capacity up to about 1,000. So that's all really good for the community.
And talk about the impact that it has, because state softball is so important for Fort Dodge and that community.
Just the investment out there.
Oh,
and that
it's so big. I don't know what the dollar return it is to the community, but it's big. The attention it brings really positive results. Vision, look for the city. I mean, we got people out of our Ankeny and Johnson offices that come here, and they don't think too highly of Fort Dodge, but they look at, wow, what's happening here? And they see other good things that are happening, like Floyd of Rosedale, our riverfront development, housing, the middle school, new development there. That's all real good stuff. So Fort Dodge really doesn't get credit for what's going on right now. So
I would agree. So what I'm taking from this too, Dave, is when you have a vision, you're going to make it happen. Like when you see a need, you're going to make it happen. And I know you've been the Callis Award winner for the Growth Alliance. You've served on the Fort Dodge Community Foundation, United Way, Family Resources, St. Ed's, all the things. What is your visions for Fort Dodge, and how do you think as a community we come together and kind of capitulate and grow as a community?
Well, I think the first thing we got to do is we've got to figure out how we can revitalize the downtown. If you're a prospective family, I think the first thing you do when you come to this community is you go to the downtown. You want to see how vibrant it is. There may be good things happening like at the Ag Park and so forth and new housing and so forth, but you kind of sit back and like, what's happening here? So I don't know what the answer is, but I think we've got to focus on the downtown. Now with what's happening in the commercial real estate industry, we didn't really talk about that, but I think that's the next bubble to burst is commercial real estate. And I think there's a lot of I'm getting off here, but I think there's a lot of mortgages are going to balloon. Their interest rates are going to balloon. Mortgage rates are going to go up. Rental rates are going to go up. I think that could really impact our economy. So we've got a lot of unoccupied commercial real estate in the downtown. So how do you feel that? I think you have to look at recreation. You got to have access to it. You've got to find investors that are willing to put like restaurants and that type of thing downtown. But it has to start with the vision of the city. I don't think the private sector is going to intervene until there's something that they can see material that's really going to help develop the downtown. So how we do that, I'm not sure yet. It starts with the warden, maybe. I don't know. So,
Dave, let's circle back. I know you talked on it briefly here on the commercial real estate, maybe issue that's pending or kind of coming up. How do you where's your guys' position of the bank? Kind of seeing things the next couple of years, on that side, because that's obviously going to have a huge impact not only in the commercial real estate sector, but it'll trickle down to a lot of different things and ultimately back to the consumers.
Well, on the local market here, for us as a bank to invest in commercial real estate, we're going to have to see how can we reduce that risk, whether it's the SBA, other sources of financing through FHA or whatever. We have got to. I think we can get the jobs to this community, but we can't. We're struggling to get people to this community. So, you had mentioned that we've got to fill this commercial real estate up probably with residential, and so how do you get the rental rates up to support the debt service against that real estate? Well, I think you got to lower the cost, and how you do that, you got to have stack financing to reduce, whether it be grants or whatever, or you require more down payment from the investors. Well, sometimes they don't have that. So it's a real challenge, but I think to getting back to what locally here, how do we fill the downtown? I think it's going to have to be real estate or residential real estate, but we got to create a vibrancy downtown that makes people that want to live downtown. And that's,
I would agree. 100%.
Recreation, restaurants, that type of thing.
And I think a lot of communities of our size are struggling with some of the same. You go into a lot of the just local markets where their downtowns were once very, very vibrant.
Yep.
They're lacking, a lot of them are lacking housing. They're looking for affordable housing or new houses, whatever it might be. So it's if someone finds that answer, they need to kick it our way ASAP. Right?
One thing positive is what's happening out the old mall. We're kind of ahead of the game there. Marshalltown, Mason City, Burlington, they're struggling with that. So I think we're ahead of the game there. That's real positive. I think you're going to see a lot of
that's exciting
stuff coming in.
I bet you're but excited about the sports pavilion that's coming in out there, right? That's going to be a focal point for that area.
I think that is going to be good. And we've kind of talked off the air here is that a lot of that sports dollar is going to Des Moines. If you know a little about what this investor is doing, is he's building this in Fort Dodge, Mason City, Cedar Falls, Sioux City. So that's like a traveling network of these traveling teams, whether it be volleyball, basketball.
Interesting.
That's what I've been saying.
Yeah, I haven't
we
heard
badly.
heard that story behind the scenes on that.
I don't know a whole lot about it.
I'm
but that's the
excited
intent.
though, just for
Yes.
us to. I mean, there's field space, just for us raising kids, court space, being able to shoot hoops. It's
Right.
Get
tough
out, be
around
active.
here, so
I
I'm
think
excited
that's
for
one thing-
more
sorry.
indoor, availability for our
Pickleball.
Yep.
Yeah, for a guy that did a 4th grade traveling basketball team this year, trying to find gym space in Fort Dodge is nearly impossible.
I agree.
You don't go to the elementary schools and just practice there anymore. That's not a thing. That's where I grew up practicing, but we don't have a lot of gym space, and I think the sports pavilion can help with that. It's going to be a cost, but it's something that can help with that for sure.
Agree.
So I want to kind of wrap this up because you do a lot of things. You got the bank, family, faith, man, community. How do you measure success on a daily basis? Or how do you measure your personal success as an entrepreneur?
I don't think it's material. I think it's more family. It's your children. It's the love you have for your wife. I think you got to look at how you're going to ultimately, when you pass on, it's the merits you take with you when you die. It's not what your material possessions are. It's not your power. It's a way, in the end, it's how you're going to be judged. And I think you have to prepare for that right now. And it's love, family, faith is how you, in the end, is how you be measured. I believe.
That's wonderful.
That's
I
great.
Love that.
That was awesome.
Sweet. See how you love your wife, guys. I was giving you guys a tip. No, I'm just kidding. Well, that was awesome. Thank you so much. Appreciate your time and
Appreciate the invitation, and thank you very much.
we'll say go Cyclones for you.
Go Cyclones, very much so.
Things turn out best for the people who make the best of the way things turn out. John Wooden.
Go Cubs.
You've been listening to How to Money with Cole and Cole, the podcast of Full Swing Financial Planning. To learn more, visit their website at www.fullswingfinancial.com and follow them on Facebook and LinkedIn.
For now, I'm Cole,
I'm Bailey.
And I'm Cole.
and we'll see you on the greens.
4. Securities and advisory services offered through LPL Financial, a registered investment advisor, member FINRA, SIPC.